At number 10, we have Playboy Cardi. To be honest, I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anybody because it was pretty unanimous from like most social media platforms and everything I've seen that nobody really liked his cipher or his freestyle or really anything he brought to the table. I feel like he's an artist where he absolutely excels when he has a beat, when he has a certain sort of swag to play with. In this case, when he's put in a cipher with a bunch of artists trying to rap, it's not really his wheelhouse. I think he very solidly placed the worst in all of his categories. The points are allocated from 1 to 10, if that wasn't clear. He scored 1 on all of his points. He has an overall average of 1. I feel like his entire part, it did have a lot of cohesion. It really fell together at the bottom of the barrel. So I'm going to give him a 1, and that's really all he's going to get for this cipher. I do enjoy some of his music, but I feel like he really fell short here. And at number 9, we have Made in Tokyo. Not really to anyone's surprise yet again. Didn't really bring much to the table. It could have well been freestyled off the top for all I know. He's again one of those rappers, much like Playboy Cardi, of the new wave sort of music you like to listen to, not really for the bars, not really for the flow, nothing. It sounds good. They have a certain swag about them, and when it comes to the cipher where they don't have control over the beat selection, they don't really have control over the tempo, things like that. I don't feel like he does really well in these kinds of scenarios. I really kind of enjoy Made in Tokyo's music, actually, more so than Playboy Cardi, in fact. But in this case, he didn't really bring anything to the table. He scored second to last in all categories. There's not really much more to it. No surprise, number 9, Made in Tokyo. And at number 8, we have Ugly God. Honestly, Ugly God really surprised me because, from what I understand, he claimed that his entire freestyle or cipher was off the top. And for being off the top, he did have a lot of, I guess, good rhythmic variation, and sort of his delivery was very dynamic in that, of course, you could tell he was, being his meme rapper self, but at the same time, he brought a good energy, a good vibe. He really rode the beat fairly well. That's why I have his cohesion factor there at the middle of the pack rather than, the average of the rest of his scores. His delivery was, really entertaining. I liked his little laughs and his little giggles. His use of pause is really good. Lyrics, of course, being off the top, being a meme rapper or whatever, there's not really much substance to what he was saying. And the rhymes, he had a couple multis in there, but it was fairly straightforward, like end of the bar, cadence, 4/4, it wasn't very interesting outside of that. But overall, I thought it was pretty funny, very enjoyable. Good off the top, funny cipher. So Ugly God number 8 with an overall score of 4. And at number 7, we have Kamaya with an overall score of 4.2, which you'll notice is not much higher than Ugly God's, which I guess makes sense. Personally, I would have actually ranked Ugly God higher if it was purely based off my enjoyment of their verses. But Kamaya, I think, brought some things to the table that, surpassed Ugly God's little memery. Namely, her rhyme schemes were a little bit more complex, and they kind of were more dynamic, more placed all over the place. Some more internal, some more multis. Her lyrics were, I wouldn't say they're particularly complex, wouldn't say they were particularly interesting or deep. They just, I guess, spanned a better range of topics. Really presented herself a little bit better. Her flow, honestly, I think is probably the worst out of all of them. I don't know how to say this, but her flow, while it objectively there was good rhythmic variation to some degree, it was all 4/4, but at the same time, there was still, good mixing up there, good sort of pauses, good use of meter. It got so stagnant after 2 minutes. It wasn't really my sort of thing. Her delivery, similar thing, right? She didn't really have much variation in her delivery. It was just, yeah, I'm a fucking star, I'm a G, whatever. It was just very monotonous all the way throughout, albeit a little energetic. It was good. But, overall, I didn't really enjoy hers that much. But her rhyme scheme and lyrics were good enough to push her above Ugly God in this particular case with an overall score of 4.2. Kamaya at number 7. Number 6, we have XXX Tentacion, an overall score of 4.8. Honestly, it was kind of hard to rank this one, mainly because there was no beat for him to ride. It was a cipher, and usually, like, one of the points of the cipher is to be able to see how these artists are able to present themselves over a beat. So almost his verse was invalidated, but I figured it was only fair to assess the verse. Pretending there maybe was a beat, I'm not sure, but in any case, I didn't end up ranking him. Overall, his flow and lyrics, obviously, meme lord, edge lord, 14-year-old discovering atheism type garbage, but at the same time, his the actual content, the diction, things like that were a little bit more complex than everyone before him. And I liked some of his rhyme schemes. There were some internals, and they were placed in ways that I guess were a little bit more complex than previous verses. His flow was good too, in the similar sense. Like, he had good variation. He had like a good short long sort of cadence at certain parts. He had good use of pause to let you absorb all the edgy stuff he was saying. His delivery wasn't really feeling it. It was a bit mumbly, as he is wont to do. It's really been a problem of his live Cypher and freestyle, is that he tries to have this low key sort of delivery, which really kind of boring and doesn't really have much energy to it. And when you're saying the kind of dark stuff he's saying, on one hand, maybe you want to be low key and kind of have a sort of somber mood to it, but at the same time, it gets so boring and it's a little mumbly. You don't understand anything. Overall, his cohesion factor, I feel like his flow, lyrics were pretty good, rhymes are good, delivery was subpar, so overall I gave him a 4 in terms of how it all fit together. And cohesion, it's one of those things where it matters how it sounds over the beat, and in this case he didn't have a beat, so I gave him, couldn't really score him high. I gave him a 4, to an overall score of 4.8. And at number 5, we have young Kyle himself. Honestly, this is kind of where things start picking up in this list, in my opinion. Like, if you notice, the overall score is 6.2, which is considerably higher than X's 4.8. For any math nerds out there, this is probably a separate cluster if you use a k-means clustering or something. Anyway, honestly, Kyle was really kind of all over the place, I felt, with how his scores stacked up. Like, his flow was good. Right middle of the pack. He had a lot of variation. Only problem is, I guess, he kind of didn't really follow himself in a lot of ways. Like, he'd start real fast and then, stumble upon trying to go into the next bit of rhythm. And while it was good, varied, good, all over the place, it just really didn't seem like he had as much control over the rhythms he were using. So I like the idea he had, but the way he executed it was a little subpar. What I suspect is that this entire verse was sort of meant for a slow beat, something of that sort. So, yeah, that's why I gave him a relatively lower score in his flow. His rhymes, actually pretty simplistic. It all one syllable, 2 syllables at the end of the end of the bar, or end of the quatrain or something. You know what I mean? So it didn't really bring anything new to the table there. But yeah, his delivery, on the other hand, solid. I enjoyed it in that it's very happy, very upbeat, some good variation there. He didn't really lose energy at any point throughout the verse, so I liked the way he was doing it, and then he was really, upbeat about it. His lyrics, now this I might catch some flack for, and even I'm not too certain about this one, but I actually thought I liked the stuff he was saying, and given the context of his verse, it was very upbeat, sort of flown all over the place, covered a wide span of material. It was good in that sense, and honestly, not too much cringy garbage in there, albeit a little bit on the what do the internet kids say nowadays? Corny, a little on the corny side, just typical Kyle stuff. But for a Kyle verse, I thought it was pretty good. Overall, I gave him a 7 for cohesion, because it's just kind of he was a bit above the average, but at the same time kind of not as good as it could have been, namely his flow and rhymes. So yeah, Kyle at number 5. Number 4, we have PNB Rock. I guess he was one of the surprises of the entire Double XL thing for me, because historically I've only thought of him kind of like an R&B artist, but his freestyle was even, you know, very personal, very sort of solid delivery. And he didn't really stray from that here. In a Cypher, he brought a lot to the table. He had very solid flows, a very good legato sort of bouncy thing that was kind of just rode the whole beat. A lot of good, you know, use of pauses there to kind of transition into the next segments and things like that. I really enjoyed that. His rhyme schemes were pretty good, you know, not very linear, kind of moving over the bar lines and things like that, to kind of setting up, the setup, payoff sort of thing. And then his delivery, again, a very charismatic sort of good sort of get off me sort of thing. His lyrics, this is where I thought, oh my god, why'd you have to go and do this, man? Maybe this is really all he was capable of, but at the same time, like, the rest of his components were so good that I thought he may have been able to have better content, but oh, you know, the whole get off me bit thing, yeah, I don't really, you know, I don't really like that. It's 2017. I feel like that got kind of boring 10 years ago. So, yeah, Cohesion, honestly, overall, I thought it was pretty good if you just kind of look past the subpar lyrics. Yeah, I liked it. Overall, 6.4, putting him at number 4 on the list. And starting out the top 3, at number 3 is Cap G with a humongous score jump of 8.2. And honestly, like, between him and PNB Rock, I felt like, at least for the Cypher, there was a huge gap. And honestly, like, the next 3 are, in my opinion, for the Cyphers at least, very much on another level. I'm not saying this is indicative of how their music is at all, or was at all, or anything of that sort. I just meant for this Cypher. Cap G came out of nowhere for me. He just came in with this, like, triplet flow, but on a 2/4 sort of timing there. And he just kind of took it over the bar line, and really, it was really intricate. I like the way, like, there was no real obvious sort of start or finish to his individual lines, his flows, but he made it all fit, and there was no semblance of, like, going off, and I really enjoyed his flow on this. His rhymes, similarly, like, the rhyme schemes were almost all internal, and then he would throw some on at the end there, but then you don't know kind of where they go, and I thought it was really kind of an intricate sort of web and weaving of a very skillful showcase, actually, for Cap G. Really stand out above everyone in terms of flow and rhymes, except, well, I'll get to them later. Delivery, again, very good. The one thing is, he was a little hard to understand. It was probably just his accent, and his energy was kind of stagnant after a while. Lyrics, on the other hand, they were good. It's just I felt like others had better in this case. He was still well cut above the rest. Really told kind of a story, his backstory, within the 30 seconds or whatever he was rapping, and covered a good range of material. It was solid overall, and so, you know, his cohesion factor was an 8. It was, you know, very good. Giving him an overall score of 8.2, landing him at number 3. At number 2, we have Amine with a great overall score of 8.6. Honestly, getting right to the top of the pack here. This guy, I mean, obviously he's number 2, but it was just so, the top 2 were such a standout. Top 3, in fact. He had great flow, good variations, you know, really rode the beat with, like, a cool, calm, collected sort of delivery. It was really on point. His rhymes, you know, not as complex as something like Cap G or even PNB Rock, but I felt like they did their job really well, and it was still a cut above the rest. Like, they were on point. His lyrics, I thought, were like pretty far and away the best out of everyone on the Cypher. Like, you know, like, the content wise, you know, whatever, yeah, struggles, this and that. I'm a gangster, but I mean, not really, but the point of his lyrics above all else was that he had a lot of double entendre, good wordplay, good diction choice. I thought it was pretty great in that sense. Really a cut above the rest. Landing him the highest score of 10 on that section. And really, I felt overall his part just fit together really well, giving him a cohesion score of 9, and subsequently landing at second on the list. Yeah, there's not much more to say. I honestly felt like coming into Double XL, I thought Amine had the greatest potential as a rapper because I really enjoyed his flow and lyrics and rhyme schemes on things like even Caroline, his biggest smash hit. I thought he was, pretty complex and kind of low-key, very technical rapper. And he kind of delivered on his Cypher and his freestyle. More so on the Cypher, in my opinion, but either way, it was great. I really enjoyed it. Amine, number 2. And at number 1, we have a Boogie with the Hoodie, overall score of 9.6. Honestly, I have no idea where this came from. I was not expecting this from him. I enjoyed his freestyle as well. It was good, good melodies, good melodic delivery and all that, whatever. But this Cypher, he just came with the heat, as one might say. His flow was really top notch. He had a lot of variation. It really built. There was like this ebb and flow of intensity in the delivery. His rhyme scheme was honestly so complex compared to the others. Maybe Cap G had something to say about that, but honestly, it was like a cut above the rest in that regard. It was really top notch. I was so taken aback when I heard just the sheer complexity, yet not relatability, how do you say this, just overall enjoyability of that verse, and then he also had like this good melodic outro sort of thing, which I thought was incredible. Overall, just a fantastic Cypher. Only thing that I guess kind of held him back were his lyrics, which were kind of run-of-the-mill typical stuff, but it was still good story, good overall. Yeah, Boogie with the Hoodie, number 10, number 1 with a 9.6 score.